The world of entertainment has always been full of unexpected twists, dazzling surprises, and unforgettable stories. But sometimes, a moment that was never meant to be more than a passing mistake becomes the spark for a story bigger than anyone could have ever imagined. This is exactly what happened when Xiao Zhan, one of Asia's brightest stars, missed his cue during a performance, and Wang Yibo, his closest friend and secret confidant, stepped in. What began as an accidental rescue soon unraveled into a love story that left the industry shaken and fans gasping for air. It wasn't just about missing a cue. It wasn't just about saving a scene. It was about two men finding something greater in the chaos of the spotlight, a bond so strong it would eventually lead them to walk down the aisle, hand in hand, under the gaze of millions who never expected their story to end this way. The stage was set for an awards ceremony, packed with flashing cameras, live broadcasts, and millions of viewers watching across continents. Xiao Zhan had rehearsed for weeks, preparing his lines and timing down to perfection. But when the moment arrived, under the dazzling lights and thundering applause, his mind blinked. The silence was sharp, echoing through the auditorium. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world had stopped, waiting for him to speak. And then, like a hero in the right place at the right time, Wang Yibo stepped forward. Without missing a beat, he delivered Xiao Zhan's lines, improvising with a smoothness that made the scene look intentional, flawless, even breathtaking. The audience gasped, then erupted into applause. The chemistry between them, electric and undeniable, turned a near disaster into the most memorable moment of the night. But what cameras didn't catch, and what fans only later pieced together from stolen glances and private whispers, was the look in Xiao Zhan's eyes. It was more than gratitude. It was relief, admiration, and something softer, something unspoken. Wang Yibo, standing next to him, seemed to understand without a word. In that instant, their connection deepened beyond friendship, beyond performance. It became the beginning of a love story that no script could have written better. Behind the curtains, Xiao Zhan pulled Wang Yibo into a quiet corner. The roar of the crowd still thundered in the background, but for them, the world had gone silent. "You saved me," Xiao Zhan whispered, his voice trembling not from nerves but from emotion. Wang Yibo simply smirked in that familiar, teasing way, but his hand lingered on Xiao Zhan's shoulder longer than necessary. Their eyes met, and suddenly, the unspoken truth between them felt too loud to ignore. From that night on, everything changed. Fans began noticing the little things. The way Xiao Zhan's smile always seemed brighter when Yibo was near. The way Yibo's serious demeanor softened whenever Xiao Zhan laughed. In interviews, when one's name was mentioned, the other couldn't hide the flicker of warmth in their eyes. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but for those who looked closely, it was undeniable. The industry, of course, buzzed with rumors. But neither of them confirmed nor denied. Instead, they continued to move like a perfectly choreographed dance, balancing their careers while building a private world only they understood. Late-night rehearsals turned into quiet dinners. Shared scripts turned into shared secrets. And one unforgettable night, during a break from filming, Xiao Zhan leaned in, his voice barely audible, and asked the question that would change everything. "What if we stopped pretending?" Wang Yibo didn't hesitate. He simply took Xiao Zhan's hand and held it tightly, as if to say, "I've been waiting for you to ask." Their love blossomed in stolen moments and whispered conversations. They knew the world wasn't ready for them. Not yet. But love, once it takes root, refuses to be hidden forever. And so, they lived between the lines, giving the audience just enough to wonder, but never enough to confirm. Yet, in their hearts, they were already each other's forever. The proposal was nothing short of cinematic. Wang Yibo, ever the man of quiet gestures, planned it on the anniversary of that fateful missed cue. He recreated the stage setting, complete with lights and microphones. Only this time, there was no audience, just Xiao Zhan standing under the spotlight, remembering the night everything began. As Xiao Zhan looked around in confusion, Yibo stepped forward, not to save a line this time, but to write a new one. Last time, you missed your cue, Wang Yibo said softly, kneeling down with a ring. This time, don't miss your answer. Marry me. Tears blurred Xiao Zhan's vision as he nodded, unable to find words. The silence that once haunted him now became the most beautiful pause of his life. When he finally spoke, his voice broke with emotion. Yes. Always yes. The wedding was both intimate and grand, a paradox only they could pull off. Surrounded by family, close friends, and a select circle of industry insiders, they exchanged vows in a ceremony that was equal parts elegant and heartfelt. Xiao Zhan, radiant in white, couldn't stop smiling. Wang Yibo, in his tailored black suit, looked at him as though he was seeing the sunrise for the first time. As they stood before each other, hands intertwined, Xiao Zhan whispered, "You were my savior when I missed my cue. Now you're my forever." Wang Yibo simply leaned forward, sealing his promise with a kiss that echoed louder than any vow. The reception was nothing short of magical. Guests later described it as a night where love itself seemed to dance in the air. The two of them swayed slowly on the dance floor, their foreheads touching, eyes closed, moving not to the music, but to the rhythm of their hearts. Every glance, every touch, every smile was a reminder of the journey that had brought them here, from a missed line on stage to a love story that defied expectations. News of their marriage spread like wildfire. Fans across the world flooded social media with messages of shock, joy, and overwhelming support. Hashtags trended for weeks, videos of their moments together went viral, and the world celebrated a love story that had once lived only in whispers. But beyond the headlines, beyond the frenzy, was something far simpler, far purer. It was the way Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo looked at each other when no one else was watching. The way they laughed together over small things, the way their hands naturally found each other's in crowded rooms, the way silence between them felt like the most comforting sound. They knew their love was unconventional in the eyes of many, but they also knew it was real, unshakable, and worth everything. The missed cue that once threatened to break Xiao Zhan became the cue that began their forever. And so, their story became a legend. Not just because they were stars, not just because their wedding shocked the world, but because love, against all odds, found its way. A forgotten line, a rescued moment, a whispered promise, and a lifelong vow. When Xiao Zhan missed his cue, Wang Yibo didn't just step in to save a scene. He stepped in to save a heart. And in the end, he didn't just give Xiao Zhan his lines back. He gave him a love that would last forever. The wedding may have been the fairy tale ending the world saw, but the truth is, the story between Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo only became more beautiful after they exchanged vows. Their love wasn't built on fleeting moments of passion. It was built on years of trust, silent sacrifices, and a connection that had grown stronger with every challenge they faced. The night after their wedding, the two finally had a moment away from cameras, away from curious eyes. Their hotel balcony overlooked the glowing city skyline, but neither of them noticed. Xiao Zhan leaned against Wang Yibo's shoulder, his eyes half closed, his voice soft. "Do you remember the silence?" he asked. Yibo chuckled, knowing exactly what he meant. "The night you froze?" Xiao Zhan swatted at him playfully, but then grew serious. "That silence haunted me for weeks. I thought my career was over. But you turned it into the moment that gave me everything." Wang Yibo turned to him, brushing a hand against his cheek. "Maybe fate planned it. You missed your line, so we could find ours." Those were the kinds of conversations they shared, quiet, intimate, and deeply symbolic. They both knew that their love was not an accident. It was destiny disguised as a mistake. Their life together after marriage was no less dramatic than the path that led them there. Working in the entertainment industry meant long hours, constant rumors, and the unrelenting gaze of millions. But instead of breaking them apart, these pressures seemed to only strengthen their bond. On set, Xiao Zhan often found Yibo waiting quietly in the corner, pretending to scroll his phone, but really just making sure he wasn't overworking himself. During late-night shoots, Yibo would sneak in warm drinks, always claiming it was for everyone, though Xiao Zhan always got the first cup. The fans noticed these little gestures too. In interviews, Yibo's cool exterior would crack whenever Xiao Zhan teased him. During live broadcasts, Xiao Zhan's eyes always seemed to search for Yibo in the crowd, as if anchoring himself. To outsiders, they were still colleagues or close friends, but to those who looked carefully, every moment screamed of a deeper truth. One scene that fans still whisper about happened during a fan meeting. The two were on stage together, answering questions. A fan asked, "What's the most unforgettable moment between you two?" Xiao Zhan opened his mouth to answer, but Yibo beat him to it with just one line. The night he missed his cue. The audience roared with laughter, but Xiao Zhan froze, his eyes softening, a blush creeping across his face. It wasn't just a joke, it was a confession. Backstage later, Xiao Zhan leaned into Yibo with mock annoyance. "You just had to bring that up again?" Yibo smirked. "Why not? It's our beginning." Then, without hesitation, he pressed a quick kiss to Xiao Zhan's temple, hidden from cameras but etched forever in their memory. Married life wasn't just about grand gestures, it was also about the small, ordinary moments that became extraordinary because they shared them together. Cooking in their kitchen with music playing in the background, arguing playfully over who burned the eggs. Falling asleep in the living room with scripts scattered on the coffee table. Sharing headphones on long flights, each lost in their own thoughts but tethered by the single wire connecting them. These were the scenes no one saw, but which meant everything to them. Yet there were also struggles. Being two men in love under the scrutiny of an industry built on image wasn't easy. There were whispers, criticism, even backlash. Some nights, Xiao Zhan would grow quiet, his insecurities creeping in. "What if this ruins you?" he asked one evening, his voice trembling. Wang Yibo took his hand, squeezing it firmly. "Then let it ruin me. But it'll never ruin us." That was Yibo, steady, fearless, and unwavering. Where Xiao Zhan was light, Yibo was grounding. Where Xiao Zhan feared, Yibo fought. And together, they balanced each other in a way that made them unshakable. One of the most unforgettable scenes in their married life came during a private anniversary celebration. Yibo had arranged a surprise, a small theater rented out just for the two of them. On stage was a single microphone, just like the night Xiao Zhan had missed his line. "This time," Yibo said, guiding him onto the stage, "you don't miss it." Xiao Zhan laughed nervously, then picked up the microphone. Instead of freezing, he began to sing softly, his voice trembling at first, then growing stronger. The song was one they both loved, full of promises and hope. As he sang, tears glistened in his eyes, not from nerves, but from the overwhelming realization of how far they had come. When he finished, Yibo stood and applauded, then joined him on stage. "Perfect," he whispered, before pulling him into a kiss under the spotlight. It wasn't for the cameras. It wasn't for the fans. It was just for them. And that's what made their love story timeless. It wasn't just about the missed cue or the dramatic rescue. It wasn't even about the lavish wedding or the viral headlines. It was about two souls who found each other in a world designed to keep them apart, and who chose, every single day, to keep holding on. In the end, the world moved on to other headlines, other dramas, other scandals. But Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo's story remained a quiet legend, a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary love begins in the most ordinary mistakes. Because the truth is, Xiao Zhan didn't just miss a cue. He found his destiny in the silence that followed. And Wang Yibo didn't just step in to save him. He stepped in to love him, to fight for him, and to spend forever by his side. And that, more than any performance or award, was the greatest scene they ever shared.